Where are the big movements going to be? Once you get those big bits in place and there's a flow to the space, that's where you're going to be in a really good place to build the layers of detail beyond there. Don't start with the little finicky bits. Let them come with time. Hi there, I'm Danny Campbell and welcome to the Ideal Home Show YouTube channel. Today, we're diving into the exciting and sometimes daunting world of home extensions. Whether you're dreaming of a bigger kitchen, an extra bedroom, or a brand new space altogether, I'll help you understand the process, costs, timelines, design tips, and the common pitfalls to avoid. Make sure you like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode packed with practical advice. Most people probably recognise me from Scotland's Home of the Year, the hit BBC One show. But before that, I was involved entirely in growing my architecture business, Hoko Design. So I started Hoko Design at a very unusual point for an architect. Becoming an architect takes an incredibly long time, usually a minimum of 7 years. And once you become an architect, generally by the availability of jobs, you're working for big commercial and public sector projects. But for me, I was never interested in being part of a big machine. I was obsessed with homes and wanted to work with people and do design every day. So I started working on the small stuff, home extensions and remodeling projects. And as soon as I started working with clients, I realized there was a huge opportunity to do more of this type of work if it was tackled from a new perspective. So I started to look at technology, different ways of working. And fortunately, I'd never worked for an architect before, so I built this pretty much entirely from scratch. Fast forward 5 years, we're now the leading home renovation architect in Scotland, and we've got a huge volume of projects we get through every single year. And we do that using a unique process that we've created that's perfectly geared for homeowners. As we're approaching Project 2000 at Hoko, we can look back on some of the massive projects we've had, which were hugely successful, but also some absolute disasters as well. And throughout the disasters, we've created the Hoko Black Box, which is where we bank all of our problems and fix them so that everybody else can benefit from them. So the first milestone that we always look at is the survey. Getting an accurate measured model of your building is incredibly important. Most architects that we compete with at our scale do this by hand, going out with a pad and paper and a laser and pen and go around the whole building, measuring the whole thing to be drawn up later. We've realized that if the measurements aren't 100% perfect, the problems you encounter down the line can be very expensive. So we now use Lidar scanning with everybody. It's slightly more expensive, but the benefits are profound when you're actually working on a real home, when the difference could mean not having your staircase you wanted, or actually not being able to get the space you imagined from the start. It's incredibly important to get accurate survey measurements from the get-go. The second most important thing after getting an accurate survey is having your finger on the pulse for the costs. The whole process of renovating with Hoko is split into two distinct parts. The first part is the viability. That starts with the survey and it ends with a very important milestone, the cost report. Often people are really worried about the cost aspect of the project. It's embarrassing not knowing how much things are supposed to cost, especially when this is potentially the most money you spend on anything ever outside of actually getting your home in the first place. So throughout the process, we get your survey done. We do a really collaborative process with your architect, figuring out the design that's perfect for you. We get you some absolutely banging visuals that are magazine quality to sell you on the dream. And crucially, we send that design off to a quantity surveyor who will then prepare a detailed cost report. And a cost report is not just about getting a bottom number, it's knowing what builds up that number. It's like layers of a cake. So you've got the construction, which is usually the biggest chunk. You then got the finishes, which is all the stuff you actually like to think about, like the flooring, the door handles, the kitchens, the bathrooms, the tiling. You then got professional fees and then all the applications to the council. And it all adds together to make a top number. And there's also VAT as well, which often gets missed. So getting a cost report is really crucial to understand how much you can actually build. And the benefit of having this control in-house at Hoko means that we can use that as part of the design process, meaning that you're never getting sold a dream that you can't afford, because that's just awful for all of us. The viability stage is all about figuring out the two most important questions. What is my new home going to look like and how much is it going to cost? Once you get those two things to align, you're pretty much on the home straight. But the home straight is a very involved technical process, which involves a full set of detailed design drawings, making sure that everything under the surface is going to work properly. The permissions like planning permission and building control, maybe even listed building consent, and then packaging all that information up with all the finishes to send out to contractors. Now the finishes, that is what's going to take up all of our conversation whilst all the boring stuff is getting done behind the scenes. And that means picking tiling, picking flooring, bathrooms, lighting, all the aesthetic stuff, which is all about you and your aesthetic fingerprint for your vision. Finishes are important not just for how it looks, but how the whole thing comes together. If you imagine, for example, that you're creating this beautiful indoor-outdoor living space with a big, fancy, expensive sliding doors, you want to make sure that the tiling you pick for the inside and the outside are not just appropriate, but they line up perfectly. Imagine spending all that money and it's not being detailed properly, so you have that little toe stubbing moment. You want to be able to walk outside with 2 glasses of fizz in your hand and not worry about tripping over things. That's where finishes and technical design come together to create a really well-rounded finished result that you're going to be super proud of. One of the biggest misunderstandings about home renovations are what the architect is actually there to do. I think a lot of people think it's just about creating the drawings, but it's so much more than that. I had a really interesting conversation with my father recently, who's a facial surgeon, and he started talking about facial architecture and how things could be moved around. And he actually showed me a blog that one of his patients wrote where he was told he was like an interior designer. We'll move this there, we'll move that there, we can maybe add bits on. So an architect is very much like the surgeon for your house. They understand what goes on behind the surface, but just like a face is an incredibly emotive and powerful thing that is so unique to every individual, so is the home. So the surgeon and the architect are there to facilitate, using their skills and expertise, a vision which is perfect for you. So I think that when you think about getting an architect, find one who's going to engage with you, build a relationship with them. They're your Sherpa to take you up to the top of the mountain. Don't try and do too much yourself. The first place to start when you're thinking about home renovation or an extension is with the big decisions. Where are the big movements going to be? Once you get those big bits in place and there's a flow to the space, there's a hierarchy between public and private space, you're making the most of where you're getting natural light, maximizing the benefits and constraints of your unique site. That's where you're going to be in a really good place to build the layers of detail beyond there. Don't start with the little finicky bits. Let them come with time and have the patience to deal with it at one big step at one time. You should work with an architect because they understand the whole process, often referred to as the master builder, which to me means you're a jack of all trades but the master of none. They should have a really extensive network of consultants and builders who you can turn to, and their job should really be to get under the skin, challenge you on your design ideas, but ultimately bring a vision which is uniquely you to life. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're planning a renovation and want more inspiration and tips, follow me at Hoko Danny on Instagram or visit www.hokodesign.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep exploring the Ideal Home Show channel for all things renovation, design, and living well.
Hello everyone.
Hi, I'm Mark Meadows.
I'm Michelle Marby Davies.
I'm Annie Sloan and I invented chalk paste.
So, cocktails.
The hive will produce 30 or 40 pounds of honey in a year.
I'm going to show you 3 ways how you can improve your home life using the very latest smart tech.
If you're looking to move or improve,
have I got a chocolate and tonka bean? I might just have.
We've got all sorts planned. This hob is actually amazing.
A little chocolate and tonka bean.
Lovely aroma, the curry leaves.
I might do that neat right at the end as a little treat for me really.
So what I love to do is go for citrus-based scents.
And it can be amazing for your skin.
So it really becomes a different look from day to evening.
To have a plan without thinking about colour, texture or specific product choices.
We've got talks, drop-in sessions, explanations, workshops, everything.
Oh, it's a good job it's 7 p.m, isn't it? I'd get into trouble. So,